So today I recall getting up at around 10:30 in the morning. This sushi is part of what me and Mom got at Wegmans. From a quick Wegmans trip that occurred around 6 p.m., where we initially only intended to get some sparkling ice beverages because we were down to one or two left at the time. I initially picked out a dozen sparkling ice beverages that consisted of 3 each of 4 different flavors. Excuse me. This peach nectarine being one of them. At Wegmans, we also got some Christmas cards for family members. Though for obvious reasons, Mom didn't pick out a Christmas card for me for that shopping trip, as I was with her at the time, I picked out 3 large garden salads that Wegmans pre-made, some pomegranate juice, some kombucha, of which I had one of the new GTS kombucha flavors out of a total of 5 I got. This flavor in particular was called gingerberry. I had it over a period of roughly 2 hours. I spent some time expanding the Wood Elves settlement in my city in Elvenar. This is where I'm at currently in terms of the task sets, and this is the first of the really hard ones, it seems. And this is where I'm at currently in terms of building the Shrine of the Shroomy Shrooms. After the trip to Wegmans, I helped put the Christmas tree we bought, and I believe it's called Green Acres Farm and Nursery. If I recall correctly, we picked out a roughly 7-foot tall Douglas fir for our Christmas tree, one that was pre-cut I have my staff members who are at least the equivalent to at least semi-professional loggers. I was pretty busy from roughly 1 in the afternoon to about 7:30 in the evening or at night. The sequence of events in order from earliest to latest were me going to the corner store to get what ended up being 3 20 fluid ounce Coca-Cola plastic bottles I got at the corner store. It came to $6.20 after tax. I was short because I brought over a $5 bill and a $1 bill. In order to pay for Coca-Cola for my mom. I wasn't entirely sure on how much a 20 ounce of Coca-Cola costs, since the freezer didn't have its price listed on there, but it had the aluminum cans listed as $8.79. Though the thing is, prices here in the United States don't include the tax, so that can lead to potential issues where someone thinks they have enough for everything they plan to get, and it turns out they don't after tax. It was very nice of that cashier to put the 20 cents on him. Whenever something like that happens to me, I feel quite grateful and hope for some kind of opportunity to pay it forward in the future. I always strive to do good things and to try and add value to people. I do my dinner series primarily in order to vlog. And while this series may have changed over the years, that has always been the intention for vlogging. I got the Coca-Colas because Mom said she felt dizzy after spending at least 2 hours. She said she started since 11:30 in the morning working through the New York healthcare market site to renew her health insurance. When I got back with the Coca-Colas, I believe I spent roughly an hour or two basically creating a new account a new personal account for which she was supposed to be able to renew her health insurance, but for some reason for the new account, all these various details had to be entered in. It was like applying for health insurance all over again rather than simply renewing the policy that was there before. At times, my mom will have a technological problem that I figure out, and the solution ends up being something pretty simple. I am in no way exactly a geek support agent or have an equivalent level of technological troubleshooting skills. But at times my mom has said that I'm a sort of genius when it comes to technological troubleshooting. Though if I would ever actually want to reach that level, I would probably have to practice at it quite a bit. After that, at around 3:30 p.m., was when we went off to get our tree. The smaller and non-cracked tree stand said it was only rated for a tree 6 feet and up. 6 feet tall max, essentially. So initially, a staff member told us we were probably looking at these smaller trees. But like I said, after maybe 5 to 10 minutes of thinking it over between Mom and I, me focusing on having a big enough tree to hold all of our ornaments, as well as a top that wasn't too bare. And Mom focusing on a solid tree with strong branches and needles, essentially, so that it would be able to support all of our ornaments, which I definitely agree with. Again, we ended up picking out a roughly 7 foot, by my estimations, Douglas fir that came to a cost of somewhere either $62 or $68. And it was prepared for us to put in the middle of our car. The top was at the front, the bottom at the back. Using this sort of machine that looked pretty dangerous to me, likely because I'm not trained on how to use it. Since I don't work for the Green Acre Farm and Nursery, and if I wanted to, there's probably no openings there for the time being. After that was when we went to Wendy's, since I figured Mom would want to go there. It'd be a way for me to quickly eat something before we would stand the tree up. We went to Wendy's through the drive-thru with the tree still between Mom and I, with me being in the front passenger seat. And I got a large Twist Frosty. Twist meaning it has both vanilla and chocolate ice cream, fries, and technically 2 different sandwiches. If I recall correctly, I think Mom also got some kind of a sandwich at Wendy's. The 2 sandwiches I got was the big bacon cheddar and the what I called the big bacon chicken. And I had the chicken. That's what I ate with the fries and the Frosty. After that was the trip to Wegmans. Our cashier / bagger, bag person, did a good job. We spent a little over $200 on groceries. For that trip to Wegmans. there's a tendency for us to go in with the intention of only getting one or two items and to end up with a whole bunch of different items as we think about what we'll have to eat over the coming few days and whatnot. Essentially through a process of finding things you didn't know you wanted or needed. Essentially, I essentially came in with an aim of getting healthy food at Wegmans. And I think I achieved that for the most part. I personally got, it's technically pomegranate juice since it has pomegranate in it, but it's more of pomegranate with some other things mixed in. The flavor is called Antioxidant Blend. And I got 2 1-liter glass bottles of that stuff. One of the first items I picked out at Wegmans ended up being this Hanukkah house. Only they spelled Hanukkah with a K. I mean a C. Yeah, it's spelt with a C rather than, if I recall correctly, Hanukkah is usually spelt with an H first, if I'm recalling correctly. I really enjoy this sushi. The people at Wegmans do a pretty good job at pre-making it. After the trip to Wegmans and after, let's see, I recall eating the Wendy's meal right before we ended up going to Wegmans. I put away the groceries while Mom ate something real quick. Among something else. We carried the tree out from the back of the car and made the very short walk to the front door of our house and into the center of the living room. But even this short walk ended up being a considerable strain on this arm, which is the left arm. And we managed to get the tree into the stand while we both wore work gloves. Though in both instances I was given 2 things of work gloves, the glove for this hand ended up being unable to put it on all the way. In both cases, the first time I was given work gloves was to carry the tree in, and the second time was to stand it. The first time the glove didn't fit was because it was too small. The second time was because it was actually a glove meant for this hand. Despite that, though, I still managed to do my part of the task of getting the tree set up. For standing the tree, I unscrewed the stand's screws, so to speak, and then screwed them back in as Mom held the tree and made sure that the tree was properly centered within the stand. Because we had a tree taller than 6 feet, we ended up using the bigger stand. And the reason we were hesitant to use the bigger stand was because we had used that stand previously, and it ended up developing cracks in the plastic, likely due to making the screws too tight. But there's a tendency to believe that you're supposed to turn the screws in until doing so becomes difficult, to make sure that the tree's not going to end up moving and falling over in its stand. Before we standed the tree, we had to go search for tape. Mom looked in the garage while I looked in the basement. I couldn't find any strong tape in the basement, but I did find 2 beginner Spanish books, which I think would be helpful to me since I'm still practicing Spanish on Duolingo. In fact, I recall right before we went to Wendy's, Mom... No, actually, it was right before we went to Wegmans. Mom made a quick trip to the post office to mail in some Christmas gifts, of which I helped her with the gifts by making a couple trips into the basement to look for cardboard boxes. On the second trip, I found a cardboard box that was perfect for one of the gifts. Though my first attempt wasn't really so successful. We have quite a few cardboard boxes within the basement. I stayed in the car for the post office trip and completed a Duolingo story on Junior playing drums for the Spanish language, which is the only language I'm currently learning on Duolingo. And that is a lengthy discussion on all the things I did from 1 p.m. roughly to roughly 7:30 p.m. And this constant low to medium intensity activity had me at times breaking out in a sweat. And after doing all of those things, I recall doing some work on that new styrofoam drawing I started the other day, essentially finishing the cap for the most part. And then thinking about trying to do some work on the 99th Dan Hamming episode.